Chapter 3 Empire. Narrow walls closed in from either side. Greyhill probably spent this last stretch of each night's excursion in an uncomfortable crawl. No debris blocked the hallway. She had cleared any obstacles weeks ago. Monique didn't worry about tripping over a stray chair. Fortunate, since Karen's lighter made a poor flashlight. It kept sputtering out as they walked, and each time her thumb had to grind its hissing trigger over and over before the flame returned. Some cellar, she whispered, and pointed at open doorways that haunted the underground. Furnace room, piping here, boxes, so probably storage. She raised her head above her lighter and called out, Abraham? Monique glanced back to the hole that was shrinking down the hall behind them. If Greyhill heard them coming, they wouldn't be able to scrabble up as fast as they dropped in. I doubt he's nearby, Karen said, lowering her lighter. That would be too easy, and he'd answer if he heard. That man never shuts up. She took cautious steps forward. Listen, if there's enough space down here to house the number of people I'm thinking, it could be big. We might get split up. Monique almost asked who they were, but she was more afraid of Greyhill. If we lose each other, look for a man in his 60s, balding except for scraggly hair running down the sides of his head into his big, tough beard. Ever seen a picture of Charles Darwin? That's practically Abraham. He's got a biker's burly build, but wears sweaters and jackets with elbow patches. Get the picture? And what if everyone here looks like that? Monique asked. Don't get cute. There'll be elders, but they'll surround themselves with desperate types who need something to believe in. Young, like you. Abraham's not like that. Karen leaned her lighter over one shoulder as if pointing an accusing finger. Your turn to share. Who should I be watching for? Donna? Monique couldn't describe her like she wanted. A fiery sun stuffed into a somehow mortal woman. She's 40, white, blue eyes, brunette except where it's going gray. She has a face like she's annoyed all the time, but in a charming way, like, going gray, Karen cut in. And how old are you? Monique shrugged. Did it matter? 20? And you're in a relationship with her? Make all the faces you want. When you get to my age, you know your own. Karen smirked. She sounds a little old for you. Monique stammered. She hadn't mentioned their relationship. Seldom did anyone guess anything about her, especially after having been around her for all of 5 minutes. She set her jaw. That's not really your business, she said. Karen's lighter flame quivered. And who would I say is looking for her if you and I are separated? She'll know. If anyone but Monique came looking for Donna, they needed to have their apologies in order. Donna's family had cast her off when Monique was still a child, years before Monique's parents did the same. Have it your way. I'll tell Donna I've come on behalf of the uptight young lady in a red cap. An orange-yellow glow broke the darkness ahead where Karen's lighter reflected off a red metal door. She pressed it open and flicked a wall switch, snapping a dangling overhead bulb to light. It cast pale light down a half-dozen descending stone steps. Another door waited at the bottom. Deeper and deeper it went. Karen doused her lighter and started down. Why did Donna come here? Monique still couldn't be sure Donna was even here. This whole excursion might have been risking her life for nothing, but she didn't want to say that. I think she was taken. Greyhill's been snatching people off the street for months. The tall lady, I didn't find out about her until after Abraham disappeared. He knew the kind of people these were, the history they're playing with, and he couldn't resist knowledge. Their mouthier members might talk, but they're not supposed to tell all. We had star charts and graphs, while they have the raw data of quantum physics, secrets to how the universe plays with time. Karen reached the bottom of the steps and shook her head. The worm is too much to explain. Oh, the things people will worship. Monique paused 2 steps from the bottom. The worm? Worm is capitalized. Ever hear of those UFO cults that wait for aliens to take them to heaven? This is worse. At least for those wackos, none of it's real. These zealots have their monsters proof and much, much more. Karen reached for the next knob, unlocked. Whoever she feared beneath Empire Music Hall didn't expect company. They might have thought any intruders would be more interested in the expensive instruments and equipment above ground. They hadn't anticipated their captives to have loved ones who'd come searching. Did they worship Grey Hill? Monique didn't suppose she would blame them. That monster was unreal, larger than life, a thing Monique wouldn't have believed had she not seen with her own eyes. A soul desperate for a higher calling might latch on to such a creature. The door opened on a stark, cream-colored hallway. Dim fluorescent lights hung overhead, one winking in and out. A couple doors stood shut along the hall, but nothing else interrupted the walls. Their creamy paint swirled in messy patterns. To stare into them long enough might have conjured shapes and visions, but there wasn't time for that. Karen marched towards the hall's end, where the path veered left. When I say it's too much to explain, I'm not trying to insult you, she whispered. I'm accidentally good at insulting with everyone. I don't even know you. You might be a physics student who's fallen on hard times. Shit happens. I'm not an anything student, Monique said. I'm sure you'd stump me on any of your areas of expertise. It's shortcomings all the way down, promise. Karen tried one of the nods in passing, but these doors were locked. Not even any expertise about Donna? She must be special. Monique pushed past Karen and toward the hall's end. The pale walls and unhappy lighting reminded her of the building where Marigold and Cohen leased their offices. Had they not met in the damn lobby while Monique was delivering pizza to a smaller office, Donna's life might have stayed on the right track. She'd been a lawyer there for 13 years. Throwing her aside wasn't fair. Donna makes the worst days okay and the okay days heavenly, Monique said at last. Karen stepped alongside Monique and regarded her. You won't quit on her, will you? Monique cringed at the thought. I'm not the kind of girl who quits. I've gathered, Corinne eyeballed the corner. Any of these doors might be loaded with people unhappy to see us. Or we might find Abraham or Donna. She rubbed two fingers over her lips. I didn't think this through. I'm no better than he is. He would have talked to the police, but I thought, what if it's a misunderstanding? I couldn't have that, could I? Monique's parents, wrong-headed as they could be on so many topics, used to tell her not to trust cops. Living on and off the street since last November had proved them right. No one who lived in Freedom Tunnel had called 911 about Grey Hill, and no one seemed to care about the missing woman. Pulling a college professor's salary, Karen couldn't understand. Money and shelter changed everything. Maybe Monique had areas of expertise after all. She turned left. The hall opened into a wide, white room. Bright ceiling lights shined around the square vent cover. The floor formed a walkway where another hall opened ahead, and a white staircase descended 20 feet down to a lower level. Green plastic ferns braced the bottom step, and hallways opened to the left and right. Perhaps they would lead to even more descending stairs. Deeper and deeper, as if there was no bottom. They don't even hold concerts below street level, Karen said. The city must know about the lower floors, and subway construction would have had to slide around. Color design, simultaneously historic and postmodern, and you can use it to cover up any crime. The public never sees the worm's secrets and all his followers' religious rites. That worm again. Then the people beneath Empire Music Hall didn't worship Grey Hill after all. But who'd worship worms? Monique asked, perplexed. People will worship anything if they need it, Karen said. Dangle the worm on a hook and a hungry fish will bite. Monique's gut roared. The stairway room was all hard surfaces and carried the noise. Right now she would kill for a box of blueberry flavored Pop-Tarts. They were junk food, but her treasured junk food. Begging the well-dressed man in the subway might have been a ruse, but she could have used a little spare change for food anyway. Now her stomach wanted to claw at her organs and spine. Left as it was, it would eventually digest her vertebrae and then every bone to follow. Karen glanced at Monique's abdomen, her face, and then gritted her teeth. You said, what'd you call her? Gray Hill? That she's been snatching people off the street. You've seen it? She studied Monique again and then reached into her pocket, pulled out a Mars bar. I was saving this, Abraham's favorite, and mine too, but I think you need it more. Monique wasn't too proud to take it. She thought she muttered out gratitude before stuffing the chocolatey end in her mouth, but after swallowing the first bite, she couldn't be sure. It's been rough, huh? For you and Donna? Karen gazed out at the white staircase. You'll have to tell me about it after we find... She gasped hard and thrashed one arm to the side, grasping the stairway banister. Her voice shrank to a shrill whisper. Do you see that? Monique swallowed the last of her Mars bar and followed Karen's eye to the ceiling vent. She didn't see anything, but she heard it. A rough scrape like Gray Hill's cloak. Something was watching, Karen said. Her stern veneer melted against her bones. She clasped her trembling hands together. I thought it was Gray Hill. She couldn't fit, Monique said. She might not be the only one. There might be ones our size, too. Karen didn't take her eyes off the vent. Nothing appeared. They wouldn't get anywhere standing here, and if something knew they were here in the staircase room, they better to go somewhere else. Better to go someplace else. They could still head back. Climbing to the street might be hard, but they still had the physical agency to leave. Something that might be taken from them if they were found by Gray Hill or the people who revered worms. But if they ran, and Donna was here now, then she would never leave. No one else would save her. Monique hit the first step and then glanced up at Karen. You can hold my hand. Karen looked at her intertwined fingers and then scowled. I'm 51 years old. I don't need my hand held. She began down the steps and past Monique. You think this is the most dangerous place I've ever been? Monique didn't know, but no one trembled like that unless deep down she was terrified. Karen cleared her throat. Thank you for not throwing what I said about fear back in my face. Monique couldn't remember the exact words anyway. She followed down the stairs and tried to keep her eyes off the vent. If something watched from behind its metal slats, there was nothing she could do about it. White linoleum drew closer. When she moved her head, motion blur made stairs, floor, and walls bleed into one. A red fragment broke the pale haze out the corner of her eye, and she thought of the woman in the red coat, Gray Hill's latest victim. Monique swerved her head again to look. Someone new stared up at them, her long red hair glaring against the walls. Excuse me? Her soft voice bounced off every hard surface. Karen glared over her shoulder, freezing Monique in place. You trust me, kid? She whispered. Follow my lead, and don't believe their smiles. No matter how friendly, loving, and generous they act, if these maniacs catch wise that you don't belong here, they'll tear you limb from limb.